Everybody's there? We'll try it a little bit different. Hello Google people. Those are the Google people. They are very active. I thank you all Google people for all the little hits and all the downloads you do. Today we go to Thyatira. We should not forget that all scriptures are given by the inspiration of God. That is and it's profitable for doctrine, it's profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for instruction in righteousness. So if anybody wants to get some instruction, the Bible has it. May God open our minds and the ears and everything to hear today some of His Word. And on the beginning, I like to say that when I'm comparing something today from the churches, that I'm not trying to attack any of the churches. But basically, it's a parallel, and you can only fit it to certain churches. So we'll find that out later on. I have a warm-up. The warm-up is the book of Revelation is the only book in the Bible what gives you what? Gives you a promise, a blessing. It promised you a blessing. What does it say? Blessed is he that readeth. That's quite a blessing, you know. So if you want to get blessed, read it. Okay, I forgot something. Something most important. My telephone. Well, sometimes I rattle on and then my cheap camera doesn't go off and people fall asleep and all that stuff. Anyway, it's not revelations. We should keep that in mind too, that it is not plural. It does not mean that it's more than one revelation or one thing what it's revealing. It's the revealing of God. That's why it's called revelation, not revelations. There's 404 verses in the book of Revelation and 800 allusions, which means what goes toward the Old and New Testament. It refers to the other books. 800 of them. Now, also it represents the climax of the whole thing, what will happen in the end time. Most people want to know what's going on. What is going to end? What's going to happen? Many people watch the news. You know, and then when you really read the Bible sometimes, it confirms that what you have heard in the news. Recap. All the 7 churches we're talking about, we have church number 4 today. It's Thyatira. There's a lot of other things what I put up there before, but it's not applicable to this what I'm talking about. Thyatira.
Somebody else is coming in.
Oh, very good. Well, we can do the laundry at the same time. That's what we're doing. Okay, Thyatira was... every church today somehow represents the characteristics from all the churches what we're talking about. So when we look at our churches and we look at the old churches, actually almost the first churches, or first gathering, or first getting together from the Christian people, you will find out that there are similarities in it. We did find that Ephesus had lost their first love. Smyrna was called the synagogue of Satan. Pergamos had spiritual deceptions, Balaamism, and your fellowships with the teachings of the devil. That was Balaamism.
Where are they going?
Thyatira his history now from Thyatira is very simple. Thyatira was a very wealthy city. It served as main business and commercial route between Pergamos and Sardis. So there was almost like a trucking, they were very busy. They were mostly noted for the important trade and manufacturing. So they were trading and they also manufactured a lot of things. Thyatira is mostly known for the dyeing of fabrics and garments. You may recall in the book of Acts, Lydia, she was what? She was a seller of purple. That's found in Acts chapter 16. So Thyatira was a very industrial city and was very rich. Okay, most of it, of course, like the other ones, had a pagan worship. And in this letter, it should be noted that God commends Thyatira for a lot of things. Actually more, it commends Thyatira more than any of the other churches. Like the things they done good. It was the first church of the 7 to be noted for its love. The love toward one another. The primary problem in Thyatira, what was it? Tolerating the woman Jezebel. So who was Jezebel?
I don't know. I don't know her.
That's good. I don't want to know her. Jezebel was probably the most wicked woman in a character, as a character in the Bible. And she was married to a weak king, King Ahab. Jezebel wanted Israel to worship Baal. On the other times we explained Baalism a little. She was the one who brought Baalism or paganism to Israel. She is accused by God of being a false prophetess. Her teaching took 2 forms. One, seducing God's people to commit fornication, the acts of immorality, which is idolatry. And the second one is eating things sacrificed to idols. A picture of the union of God's people with the world and Satan. So they wanted to bring everything together. They didn't want to have them separate. All of those things, what I'm saying, I could find several verses in the Bible, but I'm telling you, you would have hours to explore that and back that up what I said. The spiritual point of the church was Thyatira means daughter. That's one way of interpretation. The previous name was Semiramis, which is a very, very paganistic name, which started from Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. All of the core of paganism comes from those 3. That's actually the trinity of paganism. We have that in the Egypt part. We have that actually all over the eastern parts. They're based on those 3. Basically what it does, it goes back to sun worship. And I said that last time, when the solstice goes down and the shortest day, and then goes in the longest day and so on, they actually had the death and the resurrection when the days get longer. So it was all forming back to the worship of the sun. Not the Son of God. The sun, what gives us the light. Nimrod was the one who founded the original Babylonian religion. What was basically the opposition of God. We can almost say this is the devil and this is God. And that is still going on today. There's still, basically it still is God and the devil. And the devil is the prince of the air. And when, like I said, I could find many, many scriptures on that part. In history we see only one main period in the time where all of this applied to the churches. And I get to it a little later. Spiritual application was, Thyatira also means odor or affliction, and rightly so, because often it is symbolic. A prayer is going up before God. He says, I have a pleasant flavor or a pleasant smell, like we had the incense burning, and God pleased that. And that's why Thyatira was not only deceived by Jezebel, but also was a church of love. So you see, both of them were really together, the evil and the good, in the same place. Now when we go back and compare this to our present time, that church actually lasted from 500 AD to 1000 AD. we know that as the Dark Ages. So it really filtered over to the Dark Ages. And that's what I said in the beginning. I don't like to accuse, but it fits to one particular church. It was doing that Satan ramped up the persecution of the Christians, using the Roman Catholic Church as to accomplish the will of Satan. So basically they were, in this time period, which the Catholic Church was affirmed to be the great whore. No other church would ever be fitting to that. You know one? I don't. They slept with almost every king in the same bed and on and on. If you really examine what the Roman Catholic Church was involved in the Dark Ages, you would say, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what the Bible says. Now, like Jezebel in the Old Testament, who afflicted Israel and caused them to sin, that's the same what the church did at that age. It actually caused them to sin. Now, we have Jezebel one reference, 1 King 18. You can read that yourself. The 18th chapter of the first king in the Old Testament. And the one verse said, "Was it not told, my Lord, what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord?" So actually there was a big conviction there. Jezebel started killing the prophets. By 50, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophet, by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water. And that was Obadiah. He captured the believers and hid them because Jezebel would kill them. And in the Dark Ages it was a similar thing. Thousands and thousands were killed. We have heard about the Queen of Heaven. Queen of Heaven is a Babylonian concept. Without going into it, more and more you're going to look at all those things about Nimrod and everything. It parallels to the Roman Catholic Church. It was during this church age that the first Pope of Rome was crowned only. It was Boniface III in 606 AD. 600 years before they really crowned the first Pope. So the church actually, when the Vulgate, the first translation, was out in Latin, because they all spoke Latin, that was done 400 years after, that was fairly accurate. There was not much difference in the scriptures, in the Roman Catholic, what they call the Vulgate. But they have mixed that up all today again. Over 50 million people, mostly Christians, have been persecuted. They would be slaughtered by the Roman Catholic Church. Because it was either you recant, you believe what we tell you, or down the drain. You had no access to the Bible. You could not just go to a bookstore and buy a Bible. You either believe or your heads down. Roman Empire. The Roman Catholic Church position to this is, while they admit their hideous crimes, they're admitting them today, were committed by various representations of the church. The Roman Catholic as a whole is not held responsible, they say, because there were only a few from that church. And even when confronted with undeniable proof today, they will beat around the bush and attempt to absolve their guilt of those years back. Well, Jezebel did a very similar devilish encounter, helping the devil. I always say on the beginning, Satan, God did created us in His image. Satan is an angel. He's not the guy with the cloven hood or whatever. He is probably luminous, Lucifer, where the name luminous comes like light. So he's probably very pretty. So he despised the creation of God, us humans, because we were made in God's image. And he hated us. We have a will, we can do certain things. Angels are servants. You do this, you do this, you do this. They didn't have no will. I don't know how Lucifer fits into that. But those laws in heaven, I have no idea. And I don't want to make a science fiction out of it. But the devil, since that time of Adam and Eve, right from the beginning of the creation, wanted to destroy humanity. And that goes through the entire aspect of the churches. He attacks the true Christians, the true believer in God. It's evidence. So, now we know a little bit about Jezebel. And like I said, it's interesting to read something in the Old Testament. And again, I say read the whole chapter prayerfully or whatever. Don't just read a couple of verses or whatever. Let us read. Oh, I got lots of time today. Jezebel is pretty quick. Like all the things when you see to the hideous crimes, what the tortures were and everything, it's amazing that we forget so easy. When we just going back into when I was born to that time and way before the Hitler regime, how 6 million Jews literally were tortured. They were bones and there were nothing on them. And I seen some horrifying movies in Germany when I was in there. We had a big display there. Actually, I didn't have a camera. I wanted to get that on camera. But on the internet you can watch a lot of things. It's heartbreaking how a man carries his wife on his shoulder like a skeleton. They were eating grass. Atrocity, hard to understand. Then you have people today, they deny that. You know. So, and that is only one example. When I go back to Iraq right now, they killed civilians and children there. I have footage from that. That's what the American soldiers do. That's the same devilish aspect in it. And I don't want to, like I say, I hate to go into politics. But when you see certain examples, especially when you're older, you see the parallels in them. You don't have to even say or attack them, but you can see that it's the same thing, the same devilish things what wants to destroy humanity. The biggest thing what's going on now cooking is we have 6.5 billion people. That's a lot of people. You want me to put the zeros on there? I probably need another board. And they have not only billions of dollars debts, trillions. Uncomprehendable. When I was younger, you became a millionaire. That was a big thing. To be a million. Now we're talking billion. Not only billion, we're talking trillion. Now who knows what's after a trillion? Anybody? Quadrillion. And on and on. I didn't know myself. I just heard it myself. Another 3 zeros in the back. Anyway, it's like my bank account, but it's minus. Put the zeros to the back. Anyway, all of those things political is basically in God's hand. Like the one Rudimike, I think he said, God is still on his throne. Don't worry about those things, you know. He still rules, he still reigns. And that's what the book of Revelation is all about. We will see how it really comes out, you know. His will be done. Let us read the letter of Thyatira a little bit and see what we find in there. It's good always to check the scriptures out, what I told you now. We're starting in the 18th verse. I didn't print it out for you, but I should have. Oh well. Oh, I forgot the Bible too for you. Oh, maybe I'll go after on that. Revelation 2nd chapter, 18th verse.
Okay.
I try to be speaking very clear and loud. And unto the angel of the church of Thyatira write, these things says the Son of God, who has the eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. Again, we have God addressed the way He's seen it in the first chapter, and only parts of it there. I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. That means the works. I know all of that. You do all kind of good. But he says, notwithstanding. Tricky word, eh? Notwithstanding. I mean, hey, what's coming up now? You praise me for all of those things. I know thy works, I know thy charity, I know thy service, I know the faith, and the patience, and thy works. And the last be more than the first. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that the woman Jezebel, which calls herself a prophetess, Interesting. She calls herself a prophetess. She wasn't one. God is making that very clear, and a little bit later. To teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. So how many people we have today? We have umpteen prophets. I don't know if you know about the two servants, what's coming in the book of Revelation, and some say it's the Archangel Michael and it's Gabriel, the angel Gabriel. We have people on the internet, they call themselves the two witnesses from the Bible. They say we are the witnesses. False prophets are everywhere. And that was Jezebel, of course. The word fornication is not only considered in the old Hebrew to be immorality, what we always consider today, but it is also used in the Old and in the New Testament of having an intimate relationship with another God. See? An intimate relationship with another God. That means to pray to another God, to really worship another God. And God says there's only one God, and that's me, and I'm a jealous God. So that's what Jezebel promoted. The problem here is not Jezebel. Jezebel was not really the big problem there, but the church condoning her practices. And in many cases, the sin itself is not the problem, but the people permitting it. I know for a fact, churches in Toronto and in most of the bigger cities where I was, churches don't care if people just live together. That's fornication. There's no marriage bond, and they don't care. They don't even address it. I had people, women sitting with a mini skirt, holding a Bible in front of the crotch that the guys couldn't look in there, and nobody was addressing it. And when I said something, then I became the villain. I said, you got to do something about it. A typical man would look. I was looking. That's a natural thing for a man. You have to address those things. You can't just... And that's what God says in that church. It's not the sin. It's that you guys permitting it in your midst. That you're leaving it there. And we have many, many denominations, sadly to say, well, just close a blind eye to it. And that's what God hates. The problem, the sin is the problem, but it is not at this moment when you know it's the elders permitting it, not addressing it. They're afraid to say anything. I had the kids jumping on the pianos after the service. They're taking the Lord's table, they're taking the bread and the wine and just making a big mess, and nobody addressed anything. I mean, you have to have a little bit, it should be a little bit sacred. You have to address, hey kids, don't do that. Nobody said nothing. Now I'm going to go and say something. Hey, you want to run the place? No, I don't. I have a little more respect about godly things. You know?
Yes, right.
Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her in great tribulations, except they repent of their deeds. So God promises right there, repent of their deeds. And that's what a lot of people don't do today. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am He, which searches the reins of the heart. God looks at the heart of man. God doesn't look at the outside, how you look, your nose or whatever. He looks at the heart. And I will give unto you one of you according to your works. There is not the works brings you into heaven, but we can see out of that one, and I will give unto you every one of you according to your works. So many people turn that around, you got to do good works, otherwise you're not going to get into heaven. That's not what it says. What it says, that there is level of rewards in heaven. The same like we probably learned that there's levels of punishment in hell.
The baby is asleep.
The baby is asleep. So the levels of reward is definitely something to look forward to build up the riches in heaven. But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as I have not this doctrine, and which not known the depths of Satan as they speak, I will put upon you none other burden. That means basically if somebody is not really educated or doesn't know about it, I'm not going to force you to know everything about Baalism or about the Mormons, what they do wrong. Or I'm not going to force you to anything. Believe in the heart. God looks at your heart. No problem. I'll settle that with you, he says. I won't hold you account. And if you're not well studied or you didn't have the experiences of it to know Satan's wiles, if you don't know how Satan really works, you don't have to know all the details. That's the same if somebody tells me a story about certain things, my wife did this, I say, spare me the details. I know most of it. I'm married too. You don't have to go elaborate in and tell me all your bad stories, And many pastors say, tell me more. Many people are so interested. Don't you know more? But really, that's what he did? I say, spare me of that. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. That means the salvation you have now. But that which ye have already, your salvation, he says, hold fast till I come. And that's really what the Lord wants you. Hold on to your faith and to your belief, what you have first believed. That's what he wrote to the first church. You have lost your first love. Hold on what you had first. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations, and he shall rule with a rod of iron. Now who is he? And a vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father. And I will give him the morning star. The morning star is Christ Jesus. You can check that out in Revelation 22nd chapter and the 16th verse. Our last verse for today. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. And I hope you and you on the internet and all the people that you have listened to what the churches' letters are. Basically, you don't have to know much. You don't have to be too educated. God looks at the reins of our hearts. And when we're compromising with sin, he hates that. It doesn't matter what it is. That's almost like shaking hands with Jezebel and saying, oh, that's okay. That's nothing. So I hope that we all have that ear and all have understood today. And most of all, that you understand that who is the overcomer. Yeah. Because he says the overcomer is the one who enters into heaven, basically. Now, who is the overcomer? But he that overcometh the world. But he that believeth that Jesus is the Son of God. Son of God. So next time we go to Sardis. I hope you enjoyed it so far. I hope all of you people there. And I'll shut you off because now we're going to talk something but you're not supposed to hear. We're talking about you.